Okay, so good morning, Tim Young, BS MPA, West Coast targeted individual. I just connected with Wes Penray about avoiding the white tunnel of light and the black Swiss cheese hole exits in the fabric of space-time around Earth, and may do an interview about it to continue to spread that info, which is pretty vital. I'm okay. Like, I'm doing my rustic Northwest thing. I was reading some tweets of that wonderful AOC. She's such a vibrant presence for the leadership and future of the Democratic Party, and can't get beat in a congressional election 18-1. I found it so charming when she was talking about, coming from the Bronx, the big, one of the biggest cities in the world, New York. If she lost her election, her and her boyfriend, quote, "we're going to go and become lumberjacks." So I may be more similar to that lifestyle out here in the forested lands of the Northwest, but I'm not chopping down many trees, just kind of maybe growing out the man hair instead. But I may look a little more lumberjacky than the AOC out there in the Bronx. I was just wholeheartedly threatening my perpetrators that continue to torture me here in what has now been proven is a billions to one. We're already in a computerized world. Mr. Musk did the math. It's like a week after I tweeted him about it, I was really pleased. In the mid-2000s, after I became a TI and started getting tortured, I came across what was likely another TI's website. Information obscured. It was back when people still had hit counts on their website. It had a pretty low hit count. But it talked about how that this was a virtual Earth, that Bush was the Antichrist, the second one, or maybe the first one, I don't know. Right. That some elements or people or individuals or whatnot figured out that it was a virtual Earth, and they used that information instead of for good. They used it for Satanism. And stuff like that. And it kind of gets corroborated here, or it doesn't kind of get corroborated, it does get corroborated. But I continued to level a threat this morning against those EMF perping me. Oh, and it was so funny. I wake up and it was like maybe another group or somebody else who's observing and just ridiculing the shit out of this gang. They're like, I wake up this morning, they're like, yeah, this is how they end their psyop. This is when they pretend they're Christian angels. And she was holding back the black puke spewing from her mouth. She sounded so pleased with these EMF perpetrators. Did a lecture study of what is narcissist, psychopath, and sociopath. One of my perpetrators, maybe the guy that's trying to identify himself as this gang, he tried to identify himself as a sociopath. They don't have empathy or normal physiological responses for other people's suffering or pain. You're just hitting your head against a brick wall in a lot of ways. I think I've seen some, unfortunately, most of the pages are women, like narcissist recovery groups for people that, or psychopath recovery groups of people that have these individuals in their lives. So they have my remote neural monitoring. And so psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, That's who gets into EMF perping. That's who gets into human trafficking, those types, and whatnot. So this is likely a second copy of Earth. Now corroborated by more sources than me. The black portals rather than the false white light tunnel. I've connected with Wes Penray about discussing more. There's been some censoring of that information recently that I'm kind of worried about. I'm going to endure. I turn 40 next month. I want to make it to like 70 or 80. And I want to help people know how to not incarnate here. Some of the criminals, like, paid to destroy my life around the clock, sitting on R&M machines, passed out, their bodies passed out in other locations. They're fervently convinced that there's nothing after death. And it helps reinforce their behavior. They think there's really no repercussions. And I'm a tortured TI because of U.S. Satanism. It should never have happened. They shouldn't be doing this to 1.5 million of us out of Blackwater numbers, out of like 347 million Americans. I'll try and not make this video too long, but it's likely a second copy of Earth. There's likely life after death. And in a plan to try and mitigate and get people out of suffering and get people out of incarnating here, if it's like impossible for some, all, or most to get out of the quantum computer cosmos anytime soon, the black portals in the fabric of space-time after death that look uninviting, challenging, the quick, easy road that you're shown allegedly after you die is they light up the white tunnel of light at the moon. They're reading your mind. You'll see images of Jesus, allegedly, if you're really into Jesus, or like Buddha or your mom. They'll fake presence of people you love and then flood your body with, or stop sucking off your body for a moment is probably more accurate, so that the natural state of love that you would have in your own person is in you. And then they lie to you. They say like, oh, we're giving you that, but they're really siphoning it off you. But in those moments, over statistically many trial and error times, they'll try and coerce you, suck you up into that white tunnel of reincarnation, bombarded with a unfelt before sense of love, images of your parents or deities that you chose to worship, all while reading your mind and sucking you in, just another piece of human capital to be lied to, watch a 360-degree movie of your life, and then memory wiped and reincarnated back here. So avoid that. Go through the black Swiss cheese hole portals at and after moments of death. And at nearly 40, I got the information like 35 years ago on a failsafe with some precognitive understandings of how this shit was going to play out. So black Swiss cheese hole portals, avoid the white light. You're likely in a second copy of Earth. Yeah, and this website in the mid-2000s, the TI's website, had identified Bush as the Antichrist. It said that there were people or elements that had figured out, sort of esoteric or not well known, that this was a second copy of Earth, or a hologram world. And they used that information explicitly, like for Satanism and other stuff that I can't recall, on the website. And then Musk does math for me not too long ago confirms it's like billions to 1 odds. We're already in a computer simulated reality, and we're not supposed to be in the minds and bodies of anybody else like's been done to me for 15 years. So in complete disregard of the Christian God, Lord and Savior of a lot of individuals, that they just manipulate his image, unfortunately. He had shredded chakras too. You weren't supposed to shred chakras after that. In art, they have his crown chakra area bleeding. Satanic repeaters and suggesters, remote neural monitoring, V2K, some of the worst crime in the cosmos. There's 1.5 million of us right now in the US alone. 2019 years ago, like, that price was paid. Nobody was supposed to have to go through that shit again. They didn't care. So that's some of my updates. It's I think it's May 4th. So Black Swiss Cheese holes exit, distributing that information. You're likely in a second copy of Earth. There's likely life after death. I get tortured and stuff. Like they try to ruin my life every day, every way they can. But I take joy in comedy, my quick wit, and this morning I'm taking some extra special joy in a third-party observer that when I woke up was ridiculing this gang, saying, this is how they end their psyop, and with disgust and otherwise, like, oh, what a bunch of fucking idiots. Like, she was saying, like, oh, this is when they pretend they're Christian angels. These are broadcasts that are like living like me, not dissimilar at all what's going on with Kevin Christian, and they're trying to call that religion, like this group of gang stalkers, just to further discredit religion or whatnot. But what I just drank is Insure Plus and coffee. They're about $3 something a bottle, but if you're a TI worried about getting poisoned, it's a pretty quick, efficient way to get nutrition in a sealed container. What else should I talk to you guys about today? Oh, I hope Kevin Christian's YouTube doesn't go down as threatened on the 8th of this month. One of these other perpetrators that identified himself as not a sociopath, a psychopath, and he's like got my R&M. He's living his life as me. What was he saying? Oh, he was like concurring that he was agreeing, and I was agreeing that Kevin Christian's more or less correct on a lot of his assessment and the illusion and so much potential to get misled with V2K, brain computer interface, R&M, and then gang stalkers. So I think I sent YouTube a tweet like, don't shut down Kevin's website. It's a matter of international security. And it's actually more than that. Yeah. So this group of gang stalkers doesn't know like everything I know, but they know what I'm thinking. And so that gives them a sense of advantage or pride or worth. And then they use that specifically against me, the TI. So they have my R&M, they know what I'm thinking, they use it against me. And they call that satanic pride. And all this is Satanism against me. Me, I'm not satanic. Trying to prevent the enslavement of my peers, mind, body, and soul, trying to prevent people going through my last 15 years. And in a second copy of Earth, I'm ready to agree with it, like I swear allegiance to creation, not Satan, that for all these perpetrators that continue to do this, that won't get off their headsets, the psychopaths that just don't have the capacity to make risk and reward decisions, sociopaths, narcissists, gang stalkers, individually as a group, are devil to deceive, Satan to misjudge and torture, and Antichrist individually and as a group worldwide. I'm so against this slavery, this torture, and everything that's happened to me my last 15 years and it being done to other TI. I'm ready to continue the threat of Christian vengeance in a second copy of Earth, so that everybody that's doing this and doing this Satanism that thought this was the only Earth, there was no life after death, like this is it. I pledge allegiance to that which would have created this second Earth to catch them in a situation as has been described and corroborated by a number of sources. Any deception anyone ever did, you couldn't lie about anything, like who's mind controlling who, all that shit would be known. Like we would all essentially be in a large petri dish, and all of these EMF perps are like getting the top of the dish and being like, I'm God, yeah, this is it, let me fuck everybody's kid in the EMF bandwidth and get away with it because I'm the Jesus. And like all of that shit is essentially in one petri dish, comparatively, in a totally concocted world mimicking real Earth. And so for systems where you would give an entity or an individual enough rope to hang themselves and they think they were never being watched would be expertly enacted in such a second holographic copy of a real Earth. Like they would really, really think they were getting away with it, and then they wouldn't. So, good morning, Christians in particular. Hey, I study Buddhism, or it teaches you not to rely on anything else but yourself. With people in and out of my R&M, it's been helpful. But concepts applied, I'm the Christian, and the second bush fits the criteria for the one horn. And this is good versus evil. And I encourage you to all look up, I tweet it like every day on a repeating tweet, the Stanford Plato definition of evil. It was expanded after World War II, after 500,000 U.S. soldiers' bodies went into redefining or further defining what we're up against and what is evil. People, throw that word around like a softball and don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. And it's really very important, particularly for TI and even gang stalkers that want to get out of the biz or like self-aware, to read the full definition off the Plato Stanford University website of what is evil. Very important. So all the best to you, Christians. I think it's pretty definitely sure a second copy of Earth. And all these perpetrators, EMF gang stalkers, human traffickers, Satanists, torturers, criminals against the Constitution, the Ten Commandments, war criminals, criminals against humanity, criminals against creation itself. And a second copy of Earth. Those motherfuckers never get away with shit. They just think they're hiding, and they're not. So that may be more of like the grand big plan of things I don't totally understand, but can kind of speculate on. And they still won't take a deterrent. The risk and the reward decision-making capacity of psychopaths is totally like not there. They act and then make decisions later. Dr. Catherine Horton, whose Twitter got shut down, she kind of talked about the same personality profile that they pick for these positions. Like you pretty much have to kill them in like a first copy of Earth scenario and stuff like that. No, they won't. You don't reason with a psychopath. They don't have the capacity for like empathy or anything like that. No, you kill them. And like that's all they respond to and shit.